starting to see like organically what's really emerging from the show. I think that's pretty rad. Like I think it, like that it has enough of its own momentum right now that you can.
Just bands that are getting added, but we're actually adding entire subgenres.
Right, which is
cool.
super cool. And like maybe the day will come when there's like blackened atmospheric doom metal as like a sub quadra branch of like some kind of tree.
Might be the day I quit. I don't know.
You're like, I'm out now. Yeah,
Okay,
super down.
here we go. Welcome everyone back to the Banger Bar. We're live for this week's installment of Lock Horns, where every week we tear apart, rip it apart, and try to put back together the heavy metal family tree we created for our first film, Metal: A Headbanger's Journey, many moons ago. This week, we're doing something completely different, tackling a genre that wasn't on the original tree, stoner metal. And to help me is Natalie Zed. Welcome back.
Hello.
Shake my hand.
Oh,
we have to start with the obligatory handshake.
Not gonna leave you hanging.
Even though I grew up on Vancouver Island, I know very little about stoner metal. I like my metal fast, but luckily Natalie is here to help me out. So really it is the first time when we've taken a whole new genre out of a previous discussion, and that of course was doom metal. We got a lot of feedback that stoner needed to be added. But before we get into all that, the obligatory reminders. Please subscribe to Banger TV. Help us build an all metal channel. And of course, we are the official metal curators over at Apple Music. And for those of you who are watching this archived, a reminder that this show airs live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So, thanks for coming back.
Thanks so much for having me again.
You were here for folk metal.
I was. It was
now
super
you're here
fun.
for stoner metal.
Yes, very different.
Your tastes and expertise are broad.
Shucks, it's true. I just like a lot of things that are loud and ugly.
I do too. So tell me, how did you get into stoner metal?
So stoner metal is sort of one of the genres that drew me early when I first started listening. Black metal and stoner metal were the two things that like really drew me into the genre when I started going to shows a lot and just sort of actively participating in the scene a lot. I love the textures and the heaviness of stoner metal. It's something much like doom. I understand where this came out of a doom conversation. There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of heaviness. Yeah. There's a lot of sort of crushing song structures, circular or elliptical song structures, and above all, really, really incredible guitar tones and guitar textures. And that is something that is deeply, deeply interesting to me.
Very cool. We'll get into a bit of a definition of stoner metal in a moment. And you're right, it is. I think it's interesting that we're not talking about a genre that is appealing to people maybe for technical purposes, but more emotive and a sense of feeling. Reminder, it's all about you guys, not about us. We want to hear what you have to say about stoner metal, the bands that belong, the bands that don't belong. What are we getting right? What are we getting wrong? That's what keeps this show going. And of course, we want to know why you feel strongly that bands need to be removed or added, or if we need to make modifications to the tree. And of course, off camera, we always have the person that keeps us in line. The boss of the affairs is Lisa Ladisseur. With this sound, we must move on and get on with the show. Joining us in the chat this week is Germany, Sweden, Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark, South Africa, Israel, San Diego, Texas, British Columbia, and York, England.
Wow.
Welcome all, showing that stoner is truly global. Thanks for joining us from all corners. So let's get into a bit of a definition now. You touched on it earlier. What makes stoner metal, in your opinion?
For me, it's all about the texture. It's all about the guitar tone. So as the phrase stoner might indicate, the guitar tone associated with this genre is often very heavy and very, very smoky. It's about a specific kind of distortion that is very dark. Sometimes words like fuzzy get tossed around, but that sort of smoke-like, diffused, dense but difficult to grasp quality to the guitar tone, I think is really key. Another aspect of stoner metal that is crucial is the way that it makes you feel. And this just isn't necessarily emotionally, though it certainly can be. It tends to be a very contemplative genre. Things that are, it's something that you listen to when you need to just sort of like lay back and contemplate the universe. Much like doom can be something that soothes you when you are miserable. Stoner is something for sort of like contemplating the grandiosity of the universe.
And something on the sound, I mean, obviously I think a lot of these bands are down tuning, and you're getting in that sort of the lowest of possible registers
your
where almost like
are
you're
like shaking against each other.
You're sort of losing some of the definition down there, and it's just sort of making your rib cage rattle as much as possible.
Which I have to admit I'm pretty into.
Good. Well, we're going to rattle some rib cages this week. But before we get into that, also, there tends to be this debate, this discussion between stoner rock and stoner metal. So that seemed like a good place to start, and we've already got some feedback on that from people out there. Henrik, Percival, Xavier, Frost, great name.
Amazing name.
All four
Holy
of them are
crap.
great. This is just like prog rock versus prog metal. They have more kinship with each other than other styles of metal. Great point. Personally, I'd like to see a more inclusive list this time rather than divisive. For me, it only takes a band to make one great album in a certain genre to warrant a spot on said list.
Interesting.
Not sure about that. We're talking about legacy. Not everyone deserves to be on this chart. Dane Gray says that this gets back to the question of what is metal. Loaded. Pandora's box. Just opened up the 70s bands that kicked off stoner, Sabbath, Leaf Hound, etc. aren't technically metal. The first true metal was the Nawabum bands like Motorhead and Iron Maiden, and they're definitely not stoner bands. I mean, it kind of raises an interesting point. Like at the foundation, a lot of stoner bands, put simply, sound like Sabbath.
Absolutely. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this. If you want me to do this now or later,
why
we
you're
can.
here, Natalie Zed.
Awesome. So I think that it is absolutely crucial to point to those early bands like Sabbath, like Hawkwind, and say like this is the origin point of these sounds. The problem with that is like that is the origin point of all metal. Of course, it sounds like stoner. It also sounds like black. It also sounds like doom. It also it's a common ancestor, right? So I think it's very reasonable to mention that. But when you are talking about the origin of a specific subgenre of metal, I'm not sure that that is so useful so much as some of the bands you have already identified on this list right here.
Maybe what is bringing into focus, of course, is kind of one foot in that kind of psychedelic era, for lack of a better word. Of course, the Sabs were wearing bell bottoms. Much of these bands are wearing bell bottoms. It's more than just fashion, I know, but we do have one more comment from Paul Leach. I know stoner metal is a commonly used term, but naming subgenres after certain recreational habits, or professional, is somewhat silly, even if it's a lyrical theme. I mean, we put Tankard, yeah, we did, didn't we? Opening that up again. Infrash, not beer metal or alcoholic metal. Of all the bands being mentioned this week being mentioned this week can fit comfortably within doom metal. Then again, I'm not a stoner, so what the fuck do I know? That makes two of us. And Oliver Grun size 3, there's no stoner metal in my opinion. That's called doom.
Well,
you've got firm opinions though. You do think there is a stoner metal and a doom metal.
I do, and I don't think that it's recreationally based. Though, like I don't think that it's useful necessarily to separate the experience of being altered from stoner metal entirely. Obviously, this is a huge part of the genre, subject-wise, right? Like Sleep's super important album is called Dope Smoker. Obviously, there is some crossover here. This is an important thing, and a lot of what stoner metal is engaging with is that sense of being altered, whether it's talking about it symbolically or conceptually, or whether it's trying through the sound itself to make your body feel that way. So I don't think it's useful to separate it, but I do think it is distinct from doom, again, not because of the subject matter, but because of those textures, because the guitar tone is so fundamentally different, and the origin point is quite different. Like, I don't think you can say that, like, doom bands like Cathedral or Candlemass, for example, come from the same place as a band like Kyuss, which I would argue is like the first stoner metal band. That is a very different thing.
The million-dollar question, however, is do you have to be a stoner to be into stoner metal?
I don't think so. I'm a not a teetotaler by any stretch of the imagination, but I have pink little baby lungs, and I don't smoke really anything.
Right.
So I'm just not high very much. I'm also very, very boring and don't get anything done, and I'm very busy. So it's just not a state that I find myself in terribly often. Usually I'm doing my music journalism homework.
Good.
So because I'm a bit of a goody two-shoes in that way, I am appreciating this music primarily from a sober perspective. And I have to say that I get so much out of it totally separated from any kind of altered experience. It's really about what intellectually the music is doing and physically what the music is doing to me. I don't think you need to be stoned or need to be a stoner to appreciate stoner metal at all.
There's room for us all in stoner metal, I guess, is the message. But
Even
Paul
us
Leach,
being lame.
just one last comment about Paul Leach. It's true that maybe we shouldn't use a recreational term to define a genre. However, we do have shock rock and other genres. In other words, the genre does not always have to be defined by the sound. I think we can be a little bit more liberal than that. Okay. Yes, Lisa.
We're going to talk about Caius, but we have our first marriage proposal.
Okay, Stephen J,
my
here we go. Natalie Zed, your ability to define the genre is quite impressive. And will you marry me, LOL?
I'm afraid, Stephen, I already have been married. Not presently, thank goodness, but I was, and I'm not really interested in walking down the aisle again. So for now, our love shall never be.
She is blushing, though, just a little bit. Okay,
even.
with the bands. That's the first marriage proposal on Long Chords, by the way.
Amazing.
I was going to say, hopefully not the last. I think so. That's good.
Let's keep coming back.
Heavy metal love.
Rack up the
Heavy metal
husbands.
love. Okay, here we go. Caius, okay?
Yes.
Erica XO, Caius reinvented the stoner rock sound by creating a change in the sound of heavier music. Sam Fallon, Caius equals stoner rock. Queens of the Stone Age equals rock and roll. Jeffrey Collins, anything with John Garcia singing is pretty badass. So there's some debate here, I guess. Is Caius stoner metal?
Right.
Is Caius stoner rock? Give us your perspective on Caius.
So I think Caius is the band that really separates stoner rock from stoner metal.
Okay.
Because I think that, like, as identified very keenly a second ago, there were bands predating that, like Queens of the Stone Age, like, and certainly some other sort of like psychedelic stoner rock bands that were using a lot of the same textures, sort of engaging with a lot of the same thematics. But Caius brought everything heavier. Like they just intensified everything, made it so much darker, slowed things down, layered those guitar tones so much more heavily, and created something new. And it's that moment for me really where stoner metal becomes something distinct, because you can see very much like once that early Caius material sort of captured that sound, suddenly other bands started to do it too.
Very good.
So yeah, it's a crucial splitting point for me.
So let's remind everyone why these bands are here. These are the bands that were brought over from the doom metal chart during our doom metal episode, because most of the viewers felt that these bands needed to be here. Yes, Lisa?
I was going to ask you to remind people why those bands were on there from our doom metal
Do you want to remind me anyway? No. Let's go on. So stoner metal, Electric Wizard, and Sleep were also shimmied over to stoner metal. So just briefly, Natalie, tell me about Electric Wizard and Sleep and why we should have them here.
So I would have disagreed with categorizing these bands as doom bands, though I for sure understand it. Both Electric Wizard and Sleep, I would argue maybe a little bit more than Caius, are about a sort of dragging heaviness and a slowness that is often associated with doom. There's this kind of almost funereal procession seriousness sometimes to what they're doing, or certainly what they're doing earlier. And so I see why there would be the impulse to associate them with that sort of doom heritage. But what separates both Electric Wizard and Sleep for me is again the smokiness of the texture, whereas doom, this is going to be a little bit poetic, I apologize, but whereas doom runs cold, right? There's this sort of monolithic acidic sense of almost glacial, like chill, and again, like funereal grimness to them. Stoner metal runs hot. So both Electric Wizard and Sleep for me capture this sort of fiery, smoky, like a desert landscape about to burst in a flame, like tinderbox quality to a lot of the guitar tone and the texture that separates them. And whereas Electric Wizard probably is the doomiest of these selections, Sleep in particular, like conceptually also fit with doom
very nice.
metal.
We're almost getting like
stoner metal very well.
The sort of Asian yin and yang analysis of doom and stoner. We're talking about hot and cold.
I think that's accurate.
I think it's really good. Sleep. Sam Fallon says that straight up stoner, it's got to be Sleep. They brought in the more psychedelic, exploratory tone that Doom kind of lost when it got into the whole occult obsession. Any comments out there on Electric Wizard at all, Lisa? Or are people pretty happy with them being here, generally?
They seem pretty happy.
Okay.
What a rare thing.
No changes.
Come
so
on.
far.
Let's lock some horns. We're not here to be happy. We're here to debate. Okay, what we always do on Lock Horns, of course, is offer the guest his or her choice as to what band needs to be added.
Right.
What's that band for you?
For me, that band is the Melvins.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of reasons why I picked this. The Melvins, I realize, are kind of a tricky selection. It's totally cool if you disagree with me. And I understand that they also made your grunge tree.
Correct.
Something I totally agree with. The Melvins are also arguably very important for sludge, very important for a sort of alternative metal sort of thing. They have hardcore punk roots as well. Melvins are doing a lot of things for sure.
For sure.
But what puts them, in my mind, firmly in a stoner and specifically a stoner metal category is, again, the way that they play with textures.
Yep.
The way they sort of build and layer guitar, the way that is central to their aesthetic. They're an extremely prolific band. They experiment a lot. They collaborate a lot. But there's something about the focus on texture that is always present and always the same. And for that reason, I think they belong here.
Kel Surprise, we've got the magnet prepared, not just because we got to do a grunge episode one day, but you're absolutely right in terms of a band that I think has had an influence into many different subgenres.
Absolutely.
So many bands are lovers of the Melvins. Yes, Lisa?
Throwing a cog in the wheel.
Please do.
Dun, dun.
Everyone thinks they're sludge.
Okay, Melvins, here we go. What does the
Ooh.
board say? Luca Hope Fallon. All the Fallons are weighing
Very
in.
good
It's a
name
family
again.
affair. I know that you guys have them on grunge, which I can understand on some level because they're a Seattle band. Not really. And we're definitely a part of that community of bands, but sound-wise, no way. I don't think it makes any sense to have them anywhere but sludge. The very drony, slow, and low instrumentals on albums like Lysol and Buzzle's very harsh, punky voice on records like Houdini, to me, are the nexus of sludge. Melvins need to get off grunge and be on sludge. Almost rhymes. Nicholas out of Viano? Nope. That's it?
We're going to need a sludge chart.
We're going to need a
Oh,
sludge.
well.
Okay, so we're committing. It's an early commitment. There we go. We came prepared.
And you know what? I'm happy to do this.
Do it.
Because I kind of agree with you. So we've been having this, this is sort of one of the possibly more contentious areas of the discussion that we're going to have, because I do believe that Stoner and Sludge, while they are a conceptual and generic Venn diagram that overlap a lot, I do think we have to talk about them slightly separately. I think Sludge has a rich enough history and a broad enough fan base and does enough things that are conceptually and aesthetically interesting and distinct from Stoner, that while I don't think we can separate them entirely, having this kind of distinction is extremely useful and necessary.
All right, the branches are multiplying. Nicholas Ottaviano says that Melvins definitely deserve credit for being the first sludge band, significantly heavier than the other grunge bands. To me, that's where the genre is epitomized. Troy Ritter, says that Melvins need to be above the sludge tag. They were arguably the first sludge band. And Lunar Strain 235 says that Melvins are fathers of sludge. And Santiago Bracho says that Stoner is based on psychedelic rock. but sludge is based on hardcore punk.
Yep.
And the Melvins are defo sludge.
See, I got you guys. I know. I see what was happening here.
Right.
I firmly, I believe if what Caius is to stoner, the Melvins are to sludge.
Okay, there we go. Maybe some consensus for once. Do we have any other comments on sludge, Lisa, before we move on to the next bands?
I'm sure we do,
Yeah.
but I may have lost them. So
No worries,
Totally
no worries. Okay, so next thing we do is it's time to take a look at now 2 branches that we've created. We've got Caius, Electric Wizard, and Sleep.
Right.
We've added the guest choice, Melvins, and then put them under sludge because there's some consensus on the board. But really what we want to do now is tune our attention to what everyone feels. Who else needs to be added to sludge or to stoner? First up, this band, Fu Manchu. We've got Dane Gray. They are heavy. They revere huge riffs. They have dual guitars. They have guitar solos. They utilize the tritone and pentatonics. It's getting technical. Ooh. They have most of the elements of metal, but they also have everything in common with Southern California skate punk, including lyrical themes. Everyone agrees that Fu Manchu is a stoner band, but they never sing about weed, and they never talk about it on stage. And MQ01 says...
It's 420.
Woo!
Whoa! 420!
Incredible.
Moment of silence for 420.
Moment of silence.
And we're moving on.
right.
MQ01, thank you, Lisa. Fu Manchu, they've been at it forever and are still at it. No
Very
question.
cool.
Your thoughts on Fu Manchu?
I think they should belong here for
Yep.
sure. I think they fit under stoner for
Yep.
me. And again, definitely are one of those bands that even though they're not conceptually maybe engaged with the idea of like recreational drug use, they still are engaging with that same kind of heritage, and the guitar tone I think totally fits. So I'm very happy to have them on this
Well,
list.
it so happens we do have a magnet, and we're going to go back the other way to create our own Venn diagram.
Ooh.
Natalie Zed on stoner metal. More bands. Okay.
Oh, down.
We've got Down. Jack 2-Star says that Down is definitely a sludge band. Down and Crowbar are most likely the 2 biggest and most well-known bands in the genre, and for good reason. Greg Shepard says Down, no doubt. Get them on the board. And Troy Ritter says Acid Bath only released 2 albums, but that doesn't matter considering how well. That's a different story altogether. Down. What are your thoughts?
I for sure think Down should be on here, and I do think that they fit under sludge. While they have some smokiness, and I do want to say a quick thing about sludge, and a thing that maybe distinguishes them from stoner, again in sort of a possibly annoyingly poetic sense. But if stoner metal's guitar tone is based on smoke, sludge metal's guitar tone is based on tar. There's a sort of liquid heaviness, a wallowing quality to it, and just a different kind of textural engagement. And Down really engages with this very much, I think.
Very cool. My vocabulary is expanding by the minute. Thank you. Down is up there. Let's hear what you think. Let's hear what people have to say about Down. Next band, Crowbar.
Oh, yeah.
Ricky Phillips says that Crowbar needs to be added for sludge. They are the pioneers and have that heavy, crushing, slow churn that defines sludge. The song Existence is Punishment from the self-titled is proof enough. And Greg Shepard is back. Get that pre-printed Crowbar magnet up there. We all know the score.
You've been called out. Can I put this one up, because like
Yeah, put it up.
I have a lot of Crowbar feelings, you guys.
Please, yeah.
All I
Those
had
are good
I
feelings to have. Good
gave
feelings.
is a very important song to me, and also like I don't think it gets much heavier than Crowbar. Like I don't think the sort of like ripping your heart out body meat quality to just like both their vocals and guitars have really ever been matched. They're a pretty special band.
The passions are running high here on Crowbar and Sludge. Anybody else out there, Lisa? What are people saying? Lots of comments. I hate God. Okay. Shane Levesque says that I hate God for sludge. Stop forgetting about the kings of sludge. Man, put them up. All right.
Yeah, man.
It's just
Are you the man?
I guess I'm the man now. Who else? Anybody else up there? Nicholas Ottaviano is back after Crowbar and Down. I believe that I Hate God and High on Fire are the next biggest. Continued to further the New Orleans sound elsewhere in America. We've got I Hate God.
We for sure do have an I God magnet. I'm very
happy. You want to
sure,
take the
why
liberties?
Not? Yeah,
Take the liberties?
I'm super happy to have these guys on there. So
Vanna Zed.
Yeah, oh,
So good.
So I for sure think I Hate God I think represent a little bit of a not break, but there's for sure an evolution of the sludge sound that they represent. They made sludge mean in a way that other bands that follow them, I would say like Buzz Oven, for example, also sort of embodied this sort of like deep and profound. Not just unhappiness, but like angry unhappiness that they represented. Whereas a lot of sludge and stoner is a little bit more contemplative. Like they gave those genres a bit of an edge, and or an additional edginess that I for sure appreciate.
But you bring up a good point. I mean, I'm seeing a kinship here with the stoner bands, a little more psychedelic, a little more
chill,
a little more escapist, perhaps.
Sludge has no chill, zero chill.
Is bringing in the fight, bringing in the fists, bringing in the anger. I think you've got some people out here who will agree. 7-7, the Reaper 7-7 says that I Hate God, Take As Needed for Pain, 1993 is an essential for sludge. Natalie is agreeing, and Ollie Ray says that I Hate God needs to be put on the sludge metal chart. Buddy,
hey, you're
I'm the
man, you're buddy.
I'm the buddy.
This is great.
I'm gonna get Dude next, and it's the holy
Dude,
trilogy of Guyness. What else we got here? Here's something interesting. Horror Master says that Blue Cheer and Iron Butterfly got to go on Stoner because they had a heavy sound that made you feel like the world was in your hands. Okay, well, this is kind of bringing us back to the earlier point. Like, obviously, bands like Black Sabbath sort of gave birth to us all.
For sure.
Thank you. But specifically, there's a direct line from some of those very early bands right into here. Blue Cheer is a great example. Sabbath is a great example. Interesting point. So here's a question that we weren't prepared for. Where are these bands getting influences from? They're obviously drawing from those early, slower, heavier pioneers. Is that where it's coming from?
I think so. I absolutely think so. I think it's very easy to see those through lines, but I don't think you can put those bands under Stoner. Like, I think they have to be above it. And again, like we mentioned, like Hawkwind, like I would even include like some like Queens of the Stone Age, or like that kind of, those sorts of more rockier interpretations of this sound. Like those bands absolutely are origin points, but I can't say that like they exist above that label, not beneath it. They're influencers, not.
Well, we have Black Sabbath in early UK metal. We have Blue Cheer in early US metal. I mean, we guess we could make an argument for a proto stoner
for sure
chart. I don't know. Any other bands that would be in there? Don't want to put you on the spot that
honestly,
from days gone by?
We've talked about quite a few of them that I feel like have the most direct contact, I think. But I'm comfortable at sort of referring to them as origin points, but putting them under the heading of stoner metal seems inappropriate when they're clearly the godfathers of.
We want you to be comfortable. That's important. And Scott West says, dude.
That.
Thank you. And Eric Hybert says, where's my car? We're on a roll here. Okay.
Are we going to go to White Castle next? Like, come on, guys.
Shifting gears.
It is past 420.
It is. Bring me 20 sliders. I will marry the first man that brings 20 sliders to this building.
Yeah. Changing gears a bit here. There's been a lot of talk on the internet prior to today about another band, and that band is Corrosion of Conformity, which maybe you wouldn't consider to be part of a discussion about stoner, but let's see what people have to say. Nick Ottaviano setting a record for most comments. You say, while some stuff might be in the mid-tempo sort of range and very much in the same crosshairs as the sludge genre, they'll always be a hardcore / crossover thrash band at the core, and I feel that is a much more fitting title for COC as a whole. Well stated. Celtic Frost, 1979. COC should be added from the Blind album to the present. Lots of southern riffs and Sabbath influence. COC.
So
what do you think?
See, this is an interesting question. As genres and subgenres of metal become increasingly hybridized, right? It gets more difficult for people like me who enjoy putting things in boxes, harder to do our jobs. It's also, I think, better for art in the genre, generally speaking, for these things to become increasingly
complicated. Haven't met a band that likes to be put in a box.
Absolutely not. So I think that's great. Corrosion of Conformity, I think participate in sludge aesthetics and stoner aesthetics. I would not qualify them as a sludge or stoner band personally. I agree. While I agree that those riffs and that heaviness for sure refer to these genres, can I say that defines their entire ethos and sound? No, I don't think it does. So therefore, I personally would leave them off this list.
Okay, well, we got one more comment. Black Metal Ghost says that COC is crossover and sludge, and Stephen Buckner said, I saw COC last night. Awesome. They are close to a number of the sludge bands, but are ultimately very different in terms of sound and pace when juxtaposed with Pepper Keenan's New Orleans brethren. So for the sake of today, because we know that they're on somewhere else on the chart, in terms of today's conversation, just going to put them under the big fat question mark. I would agree. For me, and maybe I'm just stuck in time, but when I think of COC, I think of their contribution to hardcore and metalcore primarily. However, if you disagree, let us know if you think COC needs to be in with these bands. Lisa.
We have a lot more bands, but I just want to say, because I have a microphone, that the people in there who keep trying to get the Deftones on here, it's falling on deaf ears. You should really move on.
Yeah, Lisa's not going to even put them up on the board for me to read.
I'm not going to help you.
Deftones.
I'm not helping you either.
No, Deftones. No.
Sorry.
No. Acid Bath, on the other hand.
Oh, I agree.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Oscar Perez said it would be disrespectful. Ouch.
Oh, wow.
To the history of sludge if you leave out Acid Bath. And Pliskin 501, you still need to add Acid Bath on the list. They're essential to sludge metal, even though they only had 2 albums. Okay. And Master's Word LV3, cryptic. Acid Bath needs to be on sludge. Your thoughts?
I entirely agree that Acid Bath should be on this list.
Okay.
I don't think that a band's how prolific a band is should define necessarily how influential they are. And for sure, Acid Bath are one of those bands who did so much in terms of contributing specific qualities of distortion, and the importance of their sound is so much that I definitely think that they should be on here. Can I make us? Oh my!
Do you want to draw it now? We'll put this up.
All right.
Sorry, Stoner or Sludge? Acid Bath. For you.
For me, I would put them under Stoner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm gonna do that.
2 albums make a legend. Not so sure. Not that you need to be a legend to be on here, but I would argue that you have to demonstrate either some kind of sustaining presence or some significant influence on metal. So catching me in a sort of 420 laid back moment. I'll put them on the chart for now, but maybe the comments are going to come in.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Supreme Freak 777 says that Acid Bath is supremely stoner to me, and Mr. Ottaviano says that Acid Bath are a big band for the genre and have showed their influence even though they were short-lived. Okay, there's a case.
I think
some
emerging
bands make huge impact off one record.
For sure, and I think emerging at a critical point in a genre's origin, which I believe Acid Bath did for stoner, can make them very important.
I have a question actually for our cameraman.
Yes, Daniel.
Actually from one of our viewers.
Misanthropic Elite says, put Sepultura on that chart. All Brazilians smoke weed, no exceptions.
Well, our cameraman is Brazilian. What does he think?
He nods.
He's nodding enthusiastically.
Here's the
feeling
thing.
left out.
Right. Here's the thing, though.
At 420.
My dudes out in the world, smoking weed is not enough to be qualified as stoner metal. I don't think that those two things are identical. So as much as we all love Sepultura, I cannot support their presence.
Yeah,
on this
and you're
list.
dealing with a lifelong fan. Beneath the Remains. Hail the Gods. Not a stoner metal band. Okay, however, we do have some other bands coming in here. Orange Goblin. Nick Draney says that Orange Goblin is like the soundtrack to every Tolkien-soaked acid fantasy ever conceived. That sounds like a Rob Zombie album title.
Wow.
Horns Up and Fu Manchu immortalized the Big Muff fuzz tone for centuries to come. Always like the Big Muff. Plus, who doesn't love tunes about vans? Jared A. Washburn, High on Fire, for sure. Basically the metal version of Sleep. And Sam Fallon agrees, High on Fire, seconded. They're by far the most consistent stoner band ever, in my opinion. Pretty much everything from Surrounded by Thieves to Luminiferous is class. Thank you very much. Orange Goblin first. What are your thoughts?
I think Orange Goblin, they're definitely one of the bands that I thought of spontaneously before I came on this show.
Okay.
They're more cinematic, right? They have these sort of vast, sweeping, landscapey kind of albums that they do. But they're all about creating images and experiences. And again, that sort of like visceral kind of like universe exploring experience. So I am very happy and content with Orange Goblin being here. So if you wanna make that one, that's spectacular. Your handwriting is way better than mine.
Well,
so
I don't know about
that.
But it's interesting. I'm just analyzing the aesthetics of the logos as we're standing here, and there's definitely sort of, you can see even this the slight differences in the writing that indicates where your place may be. Some psychedelic here, and this is much more like hardcore. You know, like more.
The edges are sharper, right? Again, like Sludge gets meaner. Sludge.
The edges are sharper, and so are the knives, because people are not happy with where you're putting some of these bands.
Okay, well, Knives Out, Lockhorns, K-Man 118N says, Acid Bath is sludge, all caps. There's clearly no chill, all caps, in Acid Bath's music, and there's hardcore influence as well. Quite simply, there's a harsher, attacking sound.
Interesting
The
argument.
True SRX says that Acid Bath should move to sludge, put High on Fire on stoner instead, and Hunter Adams says that Acid Bath's music is in no way stoner. They are incredibly aggressive and much closer to I Hate God than Sleep or Caius. Okay,
that's interesting.
Fighting words.
Now, for sure, I feel like Acid Bath might maybe be like
build a bridge. Build a bridge.
I don't think that that's unfair to acknowledge that they are for sure more aggressive than a bunch of these bands. That said, the way that their influence is spread feels much more stoner than it does sludge. And I would like to point out, we presently don't have High on Fire on this board.
We do not.
So
what are your thoughts?
I do think they should be here.
Okay.
I think that they belong under stoner.
Okay.
Possibly, again, like maybe in this nebulous
middle
center
ground
zone, because I do feel that they have like a pretty strong
Just so happens
influence.
we have a magnet, obviously
look at that.
hugely influential a band without question. We've had a few comments about them as well. So Acid Bath has been moved to some sort of middle ground here, maybe some connective tissue between the two. It's like Sludger. I don't know what it is. Is it? I can't even combine them. Stephen J. Why aren't we talking about Saint Vitus?
Ooh, very interesting.
They are one of the quintessential stoner metal bands that preceded Caius. Yeah, we're going back. And Jeremiah Babcock says yes, Saint Vitus. What do you think? Do they occupy that, maybe that proto stoner?
So Saint Vitus, I really occupy for me a very similar place to bands like Down. I think that they have a lot of that heaviness, and certainly have a ton of stoner influences. They do predate or are contemporaries to a lot of the like earlier stoner bands, just in terms of historically, like when they come out here. But they are a band that is still active, and the material that is coming out, and you know, sort of their importance and sort of location and aesthetic feels like it has become sludgier to me than sort of that like traditional stoner
So
sound.
they weren't being added, do you think?
I think so.
You do?
Yeah, I do
Okay.
agree with Saint Vitus being here.
I would like to see a few more comments about Saint Vitus, and maybe I'll put them more up here.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
Because of
too soon.
the generation. Maybe we got shouts of too soon from the referee's box over there, but we'll put it up.
Saint Vitus is not spelled saint, it's just ST.
My goodness. You don't want to misspell a metal band on Lockhorns.
No,
Otherwise,
I don't feel like you can do that.
They know where you live.
I don't know if you can do that. So it seems like a lot of people are saying that Saint Vitus is doom not stoner.
Okay. Fair.
And you know, I don't know how I feel about that. I think that St. Vitus are I actually like having them under the like what even are we supposed to do here question marks feels pretty good to me.
I think maybe we got to see what the board has to say a little bit more.
Possibly.
Full Metal Guy says that St. Vitus is Doom, not Stoner. Gore Farm says that St. Vitus is more Doom, and Rye Zombie 619 says totally Doom for St. Vitus. Interesting. Okay. Well, maybe they deserve to be over here in the netherworld for a bit longer.
I feel I disagree with them being a Doom band for sure. I think they're meaner. I think they're a little bit too fast. And again, I think texturally they're doing something a little bit different. But
I think you're outvoted.
Oh well, fine then.
It's tough. It's tough in this banger bar with Lockhorn. Sam Fallon is back. St. Vitus is pure Doom.
Sure.
Yes, it's massively influential on Stoner and Sludge, but it links too much to classic metal. So, some pretty strong opinions about St. Vitus.
I'm glad.
People coming out of the woodwork there. Here's a weird one. Thrash Maniac 99, welcome back. Alice in Chains should be considered for sludge because they're a huge influence on sludge, and the Dirt album is considered one of the first sludge albums and still playing sludge today. What do you think? Bold claim.
For sure, bold claim. I cannot.
We love a good bold claim.
I do like a good bold claim. While I cannot at all deny their influence, absolutely not. I can't in good conscience say that they are purely of that genre. They definitely feel more in that sort of proto, as I think this person identified, influential position for sure, than anything that would sort of be like they're above that category, not beneath it.
Sure.
Once again.
And whether we accept it or not, I think when a band gets defined as grunge, it's hard to get them out of release them from those shackles, as you will. There is one other band, Jamie Laszlo. Hang on, I'm going to stop by Home Depot, buy some blank magnets, and make my own damn list at home on my fridge, and we'll host Lockhorns in your kitchen, Jamie Laszlo.
If you do this, please take a photograph and send it to Banger. Tweet it at them because I myself would love to see that.
And also, Jamie says, how come there's no magnet for Monster Magnet? Because it would be so monstrous, it wouldn't fit on the board. I'm here all week.
That was a dad
Literally here until next week.
Wow.
Next band, moving on. Mastodon. The Nightmare Rider. Fans of Mastodon, speak up. Speak up for the sludgy riffs and spacey vocals. Stephen Buckner agrees or disagrees. Hang on, Mastodon hasn't been sludge for more than a decade, and that was questionable to say the least. Their pace completely contrasts with the true sludge. Daler alone disqualifies them from being sludge. That, of course, is the drummer Braun Daler, who's a bit of a shredder and likes to hit the drums a lot. God bless him. Not a sludge band to me. How about you?
I don't think a sludge band at all. No, Mastodon are firmly in the sort of prog, possibly even experimental category for me. Again, I think they absolutely have sludge riffs. I think they participate in that aesthetic unquestionably. But I think that categorizing them as a sludge band does a great disservice to them, generically speaking. And
not to get too nerdy and technical, but I think somewhat their guitar tone is almost like a sludgy guitar tone, but the riffs and the pace of their music is not sludgy.
I would for sure agree with you
so
in that
maybe it's
context.
just the texture of the guitars that make us think, yeah, that's kind of sludgy. I would agree on that level. Nick Glover says Red Fang. For stoner metal. Red Fang are a younger band carrying the torch for stoner metal, sludge metal. So yeah, we're getting into some younger bands here. Delicious Dishes, welcome back. I'd like to see a mention of Weed Eater, but that will never happen. So whatever. Troy Ritter says The Sword needs to be included in stoner metal because they are consistent and have produced some of my all-time favorite stoner metal albums. And The Sword have been around for a while now. Neurotic Goth Guy says, seriously, Neurosis and Isis are the quintessential stoner sludge metal bands. Okay, so a lot there.
Okay, well, there's a lot there. Let's start with Neurotic Goth Guy. Neurosis and Isis are for sure not stoner metal at all. I understand why your wrong opinion has been formed, in the sense that
Should have said why you're wrong.
I do understand why you're wrong. There are lots of like big circular elliptical looping structures, right? There's a lot of heaviness. They do a lot of wall of sound stuff, but they're absolutely something entirely different.
How about there was Red Fang on there?
I think Red Fang's a stoner band. 100% they're a stoner band. They're very good. I think Weed Eater absolutely fall into the sludge stoner category. I like them quite a bit.
The Sword?
The Sword, absolutely. These are bands that I all enjoy and have merch for, every single one of them. Do they belong on this tree? That is a question. I don't know if any. I'm kind of
maybe
hung
the
up
baby tree of stoner.
Maybe
metal.
the baby tree.
We need a baby tree.
I do think they're participating in that. I think they're important bands. Red Fang is the only one that gives me pause because I love them so much, and I think the quality that they're putting out is so consistent and good. I don't know if any of those bands have the kind of history, influence, and just like kind of cultural weight behind them to wind up on this board, but I for sure think that they're great.
All good bands with a bright future for sure, but I don't think they belong yet. Yes, Lisa.
Well, there's one band, as we come down to the final minutes of debate, I may add,
it's getting hot
one
here.
band, a lot of consensus for this new group.
Right. Pronounced Kailasa?
Kailasa,
thank you. Never knew how to pronounce that. John M.Q. We need Kailasa on Sludge. King of the Humulum. Kailasa.
Fantastic.
One word. Andreas Machasau.
Sure.
Kailasa is one of the most popular sludge metal bands right now, the true SRX. Kailasa for sludge metal. They had the hardcore vocals, aggressive doom riffs, and Static Tensions is a great modern sludge album. And Dries Gulvarts says that Kailasa for sludge, Red Fang for stoner. Please, Kailasa.
I think Kailasa might are so good and have done such interesting things, particularly in the sludgy heaviness of their percussion. It's not just their guitar tone that sort of creates that like lushness and richness and again like La Brea tar pits like heaviness that they probably should squeak in at the bottom of this of the sludge tree.
So you're gonna get some fighting words because we didn't add the Sword. We didn't add Red Fang. We
didn't add the Sword.
Okay.
I'm not adding the Sword.
Oh, you're not adding the Sword.
But I for sure think
Everyone likes a not.
It's a not. But I feel the argument for Kailasa is strong.
Okay. Well, let's just park that.
Okay, we're parking
Stephen J. The Sword most definitely needs to be added. Age of Winter is the quintessential stoner metal band and flew the flag for stoner metal resurgence of the early 2000s. Great album. Charlie Waring put the Sword up, got me into stoner metal and heavy metal in general, and I know a lot of people who say the same. Plus, they've been around at least a decade, so they aren't new. So I don't know, maybe we need to add both, perhaps? But you feel that Kailasa is perhaps the stronger.
For sludge, for sludge for sure. Yes.
Okay.
I feel that way. The Sword for sure. If we're talking about like the stoner resurgence, right? Like, and here is possibly where I'm torn on that matter, right? Because I feel like I do agree with the comment that's like they were instrumental in kind of bringing stoner back, or like this sort of second wave or whatever. That's been now we've had a good decade of like a lot of bands sounding like and engaging with
and
this
they were
again.
On the front end of that.
And they were for sure on the front end of that. And I think for sure that does open up like the possibility of bands like Red Fang and some of the other ones that were mentioned being added here. At the end of the day, man, this is your tree. So like, do you feel it's your tree? You own the tree. I feel like there's a lot of love for the Sword here, and I do think that they're important. And again, these are all bands that
we
I
are
love.
getting a lot of love for the Sword, and now they're pouring in. Dane Gray says, gotta, gotta, gotta. Sounds like a Ramon song. Add the Sword and Nightmare Rider, the Sword for sure on Stoner. And Mike 584, the Sword is like a modern day Sabbath. Add them. I mean, not a lot of articulation as to why, but I think we've had some earlier comments where people have said they were responsible for bringing it back in a pretty major
way.
I
think they've been like pretty steadily present. So if you wanted to add them under the stoner tree, I would not have bad feelings.
You're gonna be able to sleep tonight?
Oh yeah, I'll be fine.
All right, we're down to the final minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dead Skin Mask comments. Are you seriously going to not even mention Clutch?
Nope. No, we're not.
Whoa.
Moving on.
End of show. We're not.
If I had a mic to drop, I would. I just don't
We need a
care.
mic
You
to drop.
guys, I for sure don't care about Clutch. I'm sorry, I don't.
What do you mean you don't care about Clutch? Those are big words.
Fine.
You don't
Do
care for them for this episode? They don't belong.
I don't super think they belong. Maybe that is me having my own feelings.
Yeah.
But like I'm for sure done with Clutch.
Okay.
now
Well, we
as
need
a-
some more. If people are
Sure.
serious about Clutch, we're getting down to the wire here. If you think they need to be added, speak up. This is your opportunity. Pokemon is a Shin Megami Tensei ripoff.
Amazing.
Kailasa goes in,
Well
but no
done.
Mastodon. What a joke. Mastodon's first 4 albums still have the sludgy song structures, even if they became progressive over the course of their discography. I wouldn't disagree about the progression. I just don't
Sure.
think that they were sludgy enough from the outset
Right.
to be called a sludge metal band.
I don't think so either.
Too many, I would say, melodic influences. Too
They're
much
too
influence
fast.
coming from like a hardcore sensibility. You know, a lot of repetition, a lot of high guitar work. Just not.
And also just like
what I'm thinking.
I don't think so either. Like, and again, I don't think that it's. I think it's correct to say that that element is there and those
Yeah.
tones are there and that quality is there, but to qualify them specifically, like as a sludge band, feels wrong to me.
We're standing strong in the banger
Yeah,
bar here. No
I'm
Mastodon.
for sure. Yeah, I'm just I don't. I'm not dismissing Mastodon as unimportant. I just don't
No,
think
of
this
course
is
not.
the correct place for
All right,
that.
we got
Okay.
Clutch battles going on.
We got Clutch battles. Dane Gray is
Whatever,
back.
fight
What?
me.
Clutch is really crucial. Richard Davies, the fuck? No Clutch love. Bradley G, Clutch is your lame stepdad's metal.
Thank you, Bradley G,
And
for understanding me.
much is shroom. Good. Clutch is lame.
So many
Stephen
A's.
J, Clutch are more of a boogie rock kind of band. Maybe we put them under a
rock.
question mark, so at least
Oh my God.
the word Clutch. You may
Are you gonna bow to your public
no,
that
I'm
way?
not bowing at all.
Wow.
I'm just going to.
We want to know why they would be disqualified, Natalie.
Because they're lame. No. sorry.
Aside from the fact that like I am emotionally done with them as a band because I'm bored of them. Aside from that, I don't think that they have. I think they're too fast. I think that the song structures are wrong. I think that they, like, while for sure they deal with some of the same textures,
Yeah.
to say that they don't participate in stoner or sludge would for sure be wrong. But whether they qualify as that kind of a band
Yep.
and not say like groove metal,
Yeah.
or not to say like for sure they participate in that sort of like southern sludge,
Yeah.
but they participate in a lot of other things too.
Fighting words. No band likes to be called groove metal. In my experience, Jeremiah Babcock, Clutch was
I didn't realize
essential.
that was a bad word.
Stoner metal band, fuzzy guitars.
Fuzzy.
The first Clutch album is important to this combo.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. Your expertise may reign supreme. I think we're going to leave them on the question mark.
Thank you.
We got to give Natalie her say. Yes, Lisa.
And I believe that is going to wrap it up
Is that?
Oh wow.
for today.
Okay.
So many bands.
Fighting words
many
on Clutch.
People talking about Ohm, people talking about Sun, people talking about Neurosis. They
Yeah.
want post-rock, they want atmosphere, they want everything. But
Way
it'll
to
be
stand your
another
ground,
week.
Natalie
you.
Zed. Thank you again.
Always a
for joining me
pleasure.
in the Banger Bar. Thank you, everyone out there, for joining us. A reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, that Lockhorns airs live on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank everyone, Natalie, Daniel, Lisa, Lana, and Andrew, for making this happen. Reminder, subscribe to Banger TV. Help us build this channel. Check us out at Apple Music. And we don't know what we're doing next week. We might be doing something.
Mystery.
It might be just a 420 all Thursday. We'll figure it out. But thanks for joining us for Stoner Metal. See you next time.